Rinushle. Tana has er en vehan seo in bwr lahar in ocht. Agus ta súlagam. Go munishib tanab as an meid atá le rá gom. Here on the screen behind me is a photograph of my ancestral home in County Kerry. I'm sharing this with you, partly because sharing is an American activity. I'm sharing this with you because it happens to have a deep significance in terms of the topic that we're debating here this evening, surprisingly enough. If you look at the building itself, it seems unexciting, although it does have some passing resemblance to a potato product. If you look at a stone behind the building, you will find the entrance to the storehouses used by some of my ancestors for material that they brought home from summer vacations in far-flung places. If you go inside, you will notice the dry, clean passageways, pride of my mother and her mother before her. Another dry, clean passageway. Indeed, there are even more dry, clean passageways that I'm not going to show you this evening. But what I would like to show you are some of the heirlooms the family stores in these dry, clean passageways. Here is a linen cloth. We had thought at one time that this was one of the earliest pieces of Irish linen, but as you'll see later on, it turns out this is not the case. Here's a scroll jar. We have many scroll jars in our storehouses. We also have a collection of thongs. It's remarkable how many thongs there are in old storehouses, and it wasn't until late in the Clinton administration that their significance became clear. Now, some of you may think that I have simply taken artwork from the internet and showed it to you here. Not so. But to understand the genesis of these materials, I have to talk to you about my name. Ted Colm refused to do so, you will notice, and I felt that this was moving on from an unsavory topic. My name is an Irish name, and it's made up of components, each of which you need to understand in order to understand the whole name. The first part is Ua. Now, those of you who are paying attention will notice that Ua does not appear in my name. This, however, is merely on the surface. Ua means grandson, and the abbreviation O, which I assume was provided to Anglo-Saxon people who couldn't handle two letters at a time, is the abbreviation of Ua, of O. Or one of them must at least be an abbreviation of the other. The word Mwr means the sea. The word Cart means correct or just. And ACH at the end of a word doesn't occur here, of course, either, is a personalization. So the name means grandson of the sea, just person. What could this be? Indeed, I hear many of you say, obviously it means descendant of the navigator. Hence the scrolls. Now, I spent many happy childhood hours going through the scroll jars and examining the scrolls. I had some of them translated because they weren't in Irish, surprisingly enough. Since they had come from some foreign holiday resort, I suppose it wasn't too surprising. And I would like to acknowledge Berit Engen, who helped me with the translation of some of these materials, and my friend Dick Rubin at NORC, who also facilitated some of this work. This was one of the scrolls. You can see that we have a very careful cataloguing system in which, although the term cave is unusual, I'll return to that later on. A couple of jars later, I came across another scroll, which was perhaps more typical of the kind of attitude that I find here this evening, and this is the second scroll. is an attitude that personally I find a little unsatisfactory. It suggests a sort of carping criticism that would fit in very well at the University of Chicago. It turns out that in this body of scrolls there's a wealth of data to describe a social research activity carried out many centuries ago by people who wanted to know not which was better, the latke or the hamantash, but which people preferred. And these are two very different questions. And I have another piece available, if you send me an email, that I can send to you on the difference between these two things. Among the factors considered, and some of them are important, whether you eat it alone or with others, how fresh it is, the quality of the potatoes. This is something that's not widely understood, how important the quality of the potato is to the quality of what you make from it. A topic that returned time and time again in the scrolls was who prepared it. There seemed to be some fixation with food prepared by a mother. And the contrast between food prepared by one's own mother and presumably others, not one's own mother, was important. The key here, however, is not in the detail of these investigations, but that there's a data set in County Kerry, so far unpublished, which describes a series of tests of public opinion about latkes and hamantash. Here's the question that was used in the original survey, and this predates the surveys we know by quite a bit. Let me read it to you. Eza ata mahadif latkas uchomentashen. For those of you who don't know what this means, there's a translation which was available in the same scroll jar. And this is Kjuka is farlat latke-hamentaschen. For the one sole Anglo-Saxon at the back corner, here is an English translation. Which do you prefer, latkes or hamantaschen? A good question, although there's a whole scroll devoted to the issue of whether it should be, which do you prefer, hamantaschen or latkes?